How's it going, my wonderful bunch of bakers? Hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're making super soft potato buns. So let's get in the kitchen and get started. As soon as I posted my potato sandwich loaf recipe, people in the comments section started asking me if they could make individual buns using that recipe. I love trying different variations of the same dough. No recipe is ever perfect, and there is always something different that can be made. These potato buns will give my scalded burger buns a run for their money. If you ask me to choose between scalding or using potatoes, I would not be able to make up my mind. They are both amazing methods for creating ultimate softness. I would suggest you try both to see which one you prefer. Or maybe you will end up not being able to make up your mind just like I did. But let's just get on with it. Let me show you how they're made. Starting with the ingredients, we'll need some white bread flour, yeast, salt, honey, an egg yolk, butter, cooked plain mashed potatoes, the potato cooking water. We'll use the leftover egg white for glazing. We'll use some sesame seeds to sprinkle on top. You can use different seeds or different glaze, it's up to you. Right, let's begin. And the first thing we need to do is prepare the potatoes, or potato in my case. Peel it, cut it into large chunks, place it in a small pan with cold water, then set it on high heat and boil for around 25 minutes. Try to find nice yellow potatoes. Anything that makes good mash is good for bread making. Once the potatoes are fully cooked, weigh the required amount of potato water and leave it to cool down. Using this water will just add extra potato flavor to our buns. You could also use baked potato. In that case, you would probably need to increase the hydration a bit, because obviously boiled potato has a higher moisture content than baked potato. Okay, once you have your potato water, mash the potatoes until completely smooth and also leave on the side to cool down. And before you ask about sweet potatoes, yes, you can use them. They are not as starchy and will not produce the same results texture-wise. I would suggest simply replacing the water in a recipe with cooked sweet potato. Consider the moisture content of the sweet potato when you are calculating the hydration level of the dough. But let's get back to the white potato buns. So I've left my potatoes and my potato water to cool down to room temperature. To make the dough, pour the potato water in a large bowl, add the yeast, the salt, the melted butter, the honey, the egg yolk, and the mashed potato. Then grab a whisk and mix until completely smooth. Finally, add the flour, grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. This dough is not very sticky at all. It is super easy to handle. If you're wondering why there's an egg yolk in this dough, you can watch a full video about the use of eggs in the Principles of Baking playlist. But in short, it just makes the bread extra soft and fluffy. And so does the potato, the honey, and the butter. But when you combine all these ingredients, they work together to create ultimate softness. And these buns are not only soft, they will also stay soft for longer. Right, start off the mix with your dough scraper and then finish it off by hand. Place the dough in a clean bowl and give it a quick temperature check. Mine ended up at 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. If your dough is warmer, it'll ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it'll take longer. Adjust the fermentation times accordingly. At this temperature, bulk fermentation took just under an hour and a half. We will punctuate bulk fermentation with a fold halfway through. To perform the fold, take the dough out of the bowl, place it on the table with the smooth side down, flatten it out slightly, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle to reach point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and back in the bowl it goes. As you can see, my dough is slightly sticky, so if you want to, feel free to use some flour to help you out, but do not add too much. Place the dough back into the bowl, cover it up, and leave it to ferment for another 40 minutes or so. After bulk fermentation, we must weigh the dough and divide it into 5 equal pieces. Of course, if you want to make smaller buns, do 6 or 7. Or if you want to make them gigantic, divide it into 4. Or just leave it whole and make a loaf out of it. It's up to you. After dividing, pre-shape the dough. Pre-shaping is done exactly the same way as the fold earlier. And the reason why we pre-shape is to ensure that all the buns are nice and uniform. Because at the moment, the pieces of dough are a little bit wonky and rough. And as you can see, even after pre-shaping, they're not perfect. We'll cover them up, leave them to rest for 15 minutes, and now we'll give them the perfect round shape during the final shaping. This time, I'll use a light dusting of flour so they don't stick to the table. And the final shaping goes exactly the same way as the fold and the pre-shaping. Place the dough on the table with the smooth side down, flatten it out, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and finally you can pick it up and pinch the seam together at the bottom. It usually takes about 8 to 9 folds to get the dough ball nice and tight. at least for a relatively low hydration dough like this one. Once your dough balls have been shaped, place them on a non-stick paper lined baking tray, dust them lightly with flour, then cover them with cling film. The final proofing time will depend on the temperature of your kitchen. It took me an hour. This dough does ferment quite rapidly. Leave the dough balls to ferment until they are nice and big. During the final proof, preheat the oven to 160 degrees Celsius, 320 Fahrenheit, fan on, and that'll be 180 Celsius or 355 Fahrenheit, fan off. Make sure the dough balls are nice and wobbly before you bake them. If your kitchen is cold and they're taking longer to rise, leave them. But if they are nice and puffy and they look like they're ready for the oven, there are only a couple of things left for us to do. First, brush them with the egg white and then top them with seeds, generously. One last thing I like to do to ensure that the seeds stay stuck to the surface is to gently press them into the dough using my hands. And this goes for any bake. It really makes a huge difference. If I had not done this, half the seeds would have fallen off after baking. Right, these puppies are ready for the oven, so let's get them in there. They'll take around 25 minutes to fully bake. This will of course depend on your oven. Just keep an eye on them towards the end of the bake. And if your oven's like mine and bakes things more on one side than the other, then you can turn the tray around halfway through the bake, so that your buns get colored nice and evenly. It's funny seeing them now because they look exactly the same as my scalded burger buns. I really don't think that one method is better than the other. They're just different. They both produce super soft breads. They both involve a little bit of extra work. The potato buns do take a little bit longer to make because the potatoes need to be cooked first. But there are a couple of things that the potato buns have going for them. The unique flavor and color of the crumb. If you use a tasty potato, you'll really feel it in there. And if you use a tasty yellow potato, you'll see that color in the crumb. Of course, the egg yolk helps a bit too. But if you compare these to my scalded buns, the potato ones are a lot more yellow. But like I said at the beginning, you should just try them both to see which one you like best. And perhaps some of you will be curious enough to combine the two methods. Actually, I might do that myself someday. I'm quite curious what the results would be. Would that bread turn out even softer? Or have we reached the peak already? I guess we'll find out. Anyway, for those who are interested, here's how I made this sandwich. I sliced the bun, I toasted it in a pan with a little bit of oil. I made an omelette with eggs, red peppers, scotch bonnet chilies, spring onions and grated carrot. To assemble the sandwich, I spread some chili jam and topped with tomatoes and cucumbers. That was one hell of a vegetarian meal. But let's just appreciate the softness of these buns once again. Just look at how light and fluffy they are. It's kind of like a real version of that fake store-bought bread. And here's what it looks like 24 hours later. Usually bread like this goes stale very soon after baking. It's because of the relatively high crust to crumb ratio and their small size. But when we add potatoes in the mix, the bread becomes really good at holding on to moisture. So even 24 hours later, these buns are still super soft and fluffy. And they will stay relatively soft even on the next day and the day after. You can always toast them to make them extra soft again. So what do you think this recipe? What do you think of using potatoes in your bread dough? Let us know down in the comments. Click the links on the screen for more videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.